Okay, hello, my friends. Here are 7 big stories for today. I could only whittle it down to 7. Uh, 2 of them are normal and the kind of thing you would expect. 3 of them are just freaking weird, and one of them's going to make you angry. So here we go. First, we'll start with Zelensky. He was meeting with the Pope. He went to Italy, met with the Pope after England, or Britain, I should say. Sorry about that. As an American, I get that confused in the way that I say it sometimes. Please forgive me, my British friends. Zelensky gives a picture of Bucha massacre to Pope during a Vatican meeting. The conversation between the president of Ukraine and the Pope lasted 35 minutes. Now, why Bucha? Because the Pope's always talking about peace and being a man of peace and that sort of thing. You need to understand this is the kind of thing that Russia is bringing to Ukraine. If you want peace, you have to stop this sort of thing. Okay, second part of this first story. So Zelensky also, while he's in Italy, is meeting with Prime Minister Meloni. So I presented the victory plan to the President of the Council of Ministers today in Italy, and Giorgia Meloni. We had a very productive discussion today covering all aspects of the plan. The key is to strengthen Ukraine's positions and relations with our closest partners, ensuring we create the necessary conditions and fair atmosphere for honest diplomacy. Now, for my money, I would say Italy is not like the closest friend, but Meloni has actually been pretty awesome. She was accepting an award from Elon Musk and used that platform the other day to call out for support for Ukraine. So I would also like to extend my gratitude for the security assistance Italy has provided Ukraine, particularly the air defense systems that are saving lives in our cities and villages. Today, Georgia and I also discussed the preparation of a new security package. We deeply value Italy's efforts at the G7 and EU levels to ensure international law remains effective and that our Europe stays strong. So good on her, even though I think Italy is one of those countries that could probably pretty easy roll toward Russia. Meloni has been a stalwart friend. Okay, UK. He just came from the UK. Before that, the UK may send troops to Western Ukraine to train recruits, according to the Times. This is after Zelensky met with Keir Starmer. Moving training exercises, listen to this, moving training exercises to Ukraine could send a strong military political signal to other countries and to Russia itself that, yes, we are actually in, we do actually support, and our soldiers are here in harm's way in this training effort. That means that we're committed, and I think that's a pretty powerful message. Okay, that's the first big story. Second big story, here, they're not even trying to hide it anymore. Here is a retired Russian general on state TV admitting to Russian state TV that he was in Donbas in 2014. So he says this, "Let me tell you this, in 2014, Luhansk, I'm standing on a hill. I came out, it was needed with optics and everything. I understand that something is off. The war is going on, and somehow I understand that I'm standing at the great stronghold from the great patriotic war in Donbas. Here are the embrasures, here in front of me. I went down, it's overgrown with grass, but you can still see it." And then he says this, "And something got to my soul so much then, I think, blank me, why didn't we finish them off completely back in time?" Wow. Okay, so they're not even trying to hide that they were there. He was there in 2014, and he's thinking, why didn't we finish them off? Like, this is what's being communicated on Russian state media. Okay, meanwhile, Putin has arrived in Turkmenistan. He will have a meeting with the president of Turkmenistan, and then we'll discuss a situation in the Middle East. Now, why are they discussing the situation in the Middle East? Like, what does Putin have to do with that? Well, I'll get to that in a second. With President of Iran, we will see the results of this meeting and how events develop in the Middle East. Putin's main interest is to increase escalation further and as soon as possible. So there he is, meeting in Turkmenistan. Now, let's look at the neighborhood. Turkmenistan. Here's Iran, just for understanding what's going on in the geography. All the stands are generally Muslim kind of neighborhoods, and so with Iran, they would support Syria and Lebanon against Israel, and so he wants to continue to stir that pot. Turkmenistan is somewhat allied, like all the former stands here, Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, not Afghanistan, but all these other stands were part of like the former Soviet Union's bloc, right? The USSR. Now, Where did "stan" come from? The suffix "stan." Some countries in southern and central Asia and some of Russia's republics have the name that end in "stan." If you aren't from Afghanistan or Kazakhstan or Uzbekistan or elsewhere in the region, you might be wondering where it comes from. "Stan," the suffix, it occurs in several languages like this. In Persia and Urdu, it means where one stands. Pretty simple. Or the place of the Kurds, or the place of the Kazakhs, or the place of the Afghans, or that sort of thing. So that's where the language comes from, but it's all a predominantly Muslim neighborhood. Okay, now this was fascinating. This is one of those weird stories. Putin is the only one allowed to drive a black car in Turkmenistan. What? Why? Putin arrived for the International Forum, Interconnection of Times and Civilizations. Since 2018, Turkmenistan has banned cars other than white ones. However, the Russian dictator decided not to respect that ban. Well, I mean, he doesn't have to. After all, he's Putin. But I looked that up. It's really a thing. Turkmenistan banned black cars. This is back in 2018. If you look at the date, it's really weird. But this is kind of how authoritarians do what authoritarians do. And this is Islamic authoritarianism, but it's still authoritarianism. Drivers of dark-colored cars in Ashgabat have reportedly had their cars towed to a government lot and upon retrieval ordered to repaint the vehicles white or silver. Huh? Okay, individuals reported having been ordered to repaint their cars. On the car front, Ashgabat has issued various absurd rules. Tinted windows have been banned since 2014. Okay, that's not that bad. Some states in the United States banned that for security reasons. And in 2015, Ashgabat banned the import of black cars, a signal of things to come. Also, in 2015, there were restrictions put on engine size for imports. What's the point? The key here is to look past the absurdity and pay attention to the impact. A person interviewed in this article was told that repainting his car would cost 7,000 manat, $1,996 US, and that the price would go up to 11,000 manat, that's $3,137, if he waited a week. His salary was only 1,000 manat, or $285. So there's something scammy going on here. In the regime's authoritarian worldview, it is Turkmenistan's wider population and not the elites surrounding the president that has to be hit most severely by this deepening economic crisis. Maybe this is a fundraising gig or something, I'm not exactly sure, but it is a thing that they can't have at black cars. They can only have white or silver. Okay, yesterday, weird story number 2. Yesterday I was talking about Kadyrov's blood feud against Russian lawmakers, and he assembled all his military and police and whatever and said he has a blood feud, and yeah, okay. Well, the conflict between Kadyrov and Russian Senator Suleiman Kerimov has already been named the most serious conflict of the last 10 years. There's a serious discussion in Russia that it could lead to war between Chechens and Dagestanis. Now let's look at the map. These are two fairly Muslim countries, Chechnya and Dagestan, right next to each other, Chechnya and Dagestan, right across the sea from Turkmenistan and all the other stands, right? So that's the neighborhood that we're looking at. Now, the inter-ethnic conflict intensified after the shooting at the office of the marketplace in Moscow, the Wildberries shooting a week ago. A note from Dagestan Interior Ministry said, quote, "The blood conflict that the Chechen leader outlined today and accusations of organizing his assassination are seriously destabilizing the situation in the North Caucasus." According to political analysts close to the Kremlin, apparently the Kremlin is no longer able to extinguish or control this conflict. Now, Putin wants to enable conflicts, but not this one. There are rumors that the National Guard of Russia and Interior Ministry forces will be redeployed to the North Caucasus. This may affect the course of the special military operation. It's not clear yet whether Kadyrov will redeploy Akhmat units back to Chechnya, so that could actually happen. The Caucasus story seriously weakens the Kremlin, demonstrating its weakness and the limited resources in this interclan squabbles. Putin cannot solve an emotional inter-ethnic conflict with money and credit. No, these two hate each other and they're about to go to blows, and it could create some kind of weird border crisis within Russia itself as these two potentially go at each other. Okay, now, while we're on weird stories, North Koreans, I talked about this. just the last 2 days, how North Korean officers were killed, and then, hey, it's possible that North Koreans could be sent into Ukraine proper. Well, North Koreans deployed alongside Russian troops in Ukraine, according to sources. Now, there's more than what we said before. North Korean military engineers have been deployed to help Russia target Ukraine with ballistic missiles, and fighters operating in occupied areas of the country have already been killed, senior officials in Kyiv and Seoul have said. There are dozens of North Koreans behind Russian lines in teams that support launcher systems for KN-23 missiles. Now, foreigners have fought as mercenaries for Russia, but if North Koreans are on the ground, it would mark the first time a foreign government has sent troops in uniform to support Moscow's war. And it's not only, it looks like it's happening on a small scale, it's likely to continue to happen at a larger clip. Kim Jong Un was, by the way, going to a meeting marking the 79th anniversary of the establishment of the ruling party in a Russian Aurus limousine. Remember, he and Putin were driving along and just enjoying the ride and yucking it up. Okay, the car was a gift to Kim Jong Un by Putin, but this post said, I wonder what the Russian security services installed in this car, like to listen in. It'd be interesting to see if there was anything there. It's all speculation. This is not hard news. That's just speculation, but still interesting. Okay, in other news, Steven Seagal, the American actor, says that he is ready to die for Putin and Russia. Now, Jay in Kyiv also speculating, and I clarify when I'm speculating or when this is hard news or when this is speculation, and this is speculation. So Jay in Kyiv said, having recently spent a day with someone that was once a very close associate of Steven Seagal, I can tell you that each Russian propaganda statement made by him is about maintaining a heavy flow of Russian hookers and drugs, nothing else. Now, I don't know if that is the case or not, but he really, really loves Russia. So I was looking this up. Yes, this is a true story. U.S. actor, Russian propagandist Steven Seagal says that he would die for Putin in a new documentary. And then if you look at another article here, Steven Seagal declares himself 1,000,000% Russian and lashes out at U.S. disinformation. This was a year ago. He's declared himself 1,000,000% Russian after receiving an award from President Vladimir Putin. The former Hollywood star was given an Order of Friendship medal after supporting the country following the invasion of Ukraine. Seagal pledged his allegiance to Russia during an event held by the International Movement of Russians in Moscow on Monday the 13th. That was last year. He also accused the U.S. of spending billions of dollars on disinformation and lies, which he said was an attempt to discredit and demoralize and destroy the emerging morale of Russia. But it gets a little bit clearer here. He said, over half the people in America actually love Russia and love Russians and know that they're being lied to. Well, I don't think it's quite like that. But Seagal, who was born in Michigan, said, my father was pure Russian. I was raised in a pure Russian household because my mother was completely immersed in the Russian culture and she did not have parents. So I grew up with Russian culture. Okay, that makes sense. So maybe it's not drugs and hookers. Like, let's put the best face on it possible. Okay, now I understand why he's like that. It could be the other, but I just don't know. But we do know this, and he calls himself a Russophile, a 1,000,000% Russian. Okay, which is really odd because he plays like an American SEAL or special operator or something in movies and things along those lines. In all these American movies where he's the hero taking on the bad guys, and it's kind of odd and jolting to see. But it's less jolting than having to listen to songs from the Crystal Cave, which is, I don't know why actors think they can also sing, but he actually does. You can look it up on YouTube. I'm not going to do that to you. Okay, last big story. Republicans appear poised to take control of the Senate, a new poll shows. Okay, so you know I'm a Republican. I don't support Trump, but Republicans controlling the Senate is the least bad thing. First, I think either way, you want divided government. And you want divided government because divided government keeps either party from running off the rails. But this is the least bad thing. Over in the House, they have lots of MAGA types. Over in the Senate, they have a lot more of the older school Reagan Republicans that will actually support Ukraine. Regardless of who is the president, if you have to have either the House or the Senate, better for the Senate to be in Republican hands because they were working, Mitch McConnell was working with Schumer on working through the bills. Okay. Last thing, and this is just for fun, after all that, I feel a little weird, but you're going to feel a little bit more weird in just a moment. In case you never heard of the howl, this has nothing to do with Ukraine, the howl of an Arctic wolf. Here it is, it's worth it. you'll appreciate this. Listen
We
here.
are going to keep doing them until we see K9's nose go up in the air. When you see his nose go up in the air, kind of quiet your voice down. We're going to see if we can hear his beautiful Arctic wolf howl. But K9 likes to chit-chat a little bit, so he doesn't want to stop there. He wants to howl a couple times back and forth, so we'll keep it going. Are you guys willing? Sure. All right, let's try it out. Here we go.
Yeah. Meow, 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 meow,
Okay, obviously not the actual voice. It just made me laugh, but it reminds me of bad Russian propaganda or bad attempts to actually say, no, this happened here, when clearly it didn't happen, and there's a date or a timestamp or something that shows that it didn't. Anyway, I just thought that was fun, my friends. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.